the Doctor? In general, Doctor Who, the British sci-fi show. What's it about? What's it for? And why does everybody love it so much? Well, today I will be basically sharing all the information that you could possibly need as either a beginner or someone who just wants to know a little more about Doctor Who. And I will also go in detail on what each thing is and what all the aspects are to look at and all that. So just sit back, relax, and think one thing as you're going through or listening to this. Who is the Doctor? And what is Doctor Who? Our journey through the history of Doctor Who begins right now. Alright, so where do we begin? Well, how about we start from the beginning? Doctor Who actually started in 1963 when a British woman interested in the adventures of time and space wanted to create a series based on that fascination. So, throughout the years, she developed ways to make that possible. And, well, come 1963, the first episode of Doctor Who had aired. Now, this was through the BBC, which is a British television station, and throughout the years, it's always been with the BBC. Now, with each series of Doctor Who, ever since 1963, they have changed actors. But don't worry, I'll get to explain that a little later in this video. So, I think the first thing we should actually talk about is each Doctor individually, because there are, as of right now, 12 Doctors, because they just picked the brand new 12th Doctor. Don't worry, if you're lost, I'll get you caught up. I'm just going to give you a brief insight to what we're doing right now. Alright, so as I said, I was going to talk to you about each individual Doctor, and, well, why not start with the first one? The first Doctor was William Hartnell. He was 55 when he actually took the job, but surprisingly enough, he was a good Doctor to start off with. He started in an episode called An Unearthly Child. If you want to look these episodes up, I would suggest Daily Motion. It has a lot of the classic Who on there. But basically, the first Doctor, you're introduced to him saying that him, who he is a Time Lord, a literal Lord of Time, and his granddaughter Susan have traveled to Earth because, well, they had to run away from the Time Lords, basically the people of his race. Because the Doctor himself, he is not actually human. He is, in fact, an alien. So, with that being said, you meet his first two companions, Ian and Barbara, and they are, I believe, teachers at school. And they actually find the Doctor's TARDIS, a blue police box, that's bigger on the inside. Don't worry, I'll get to that later. Um, and they end up actually getting taken away in the TARDIS, not in a bad way, but the Doctor and Susan actually show them what the TARDIS can do. Um, this first Doctor was actually at first not one of my favorite Doctors, but once I actually went back and watched some of the episodes, and yes, some of them were black and white, but black and white episodes or shows weren't exactly that bad. Some were actually really good, and I started to warm up to this Doctor because I'm not sure, but the first episode I saw with this Doctor was Doctor Who, the Aztecs, and I don't know. After seeing that, I started rethinking how this Doctor, he may be old and he may be grumpy at sometimes, but he's actually a good Doctor. So the thing you need to know about the first Doctor is, well, he is a grandfather to Susan, um, and he at times is grumpy, and he's not always the nicest Doctor, but he is one of the wisest Doctors ever to um, be portrayed in this series of Doctor Who. So, um, that's a little about the first Doctor, William Hartnell. I suppose we can move on to the next Doctor, but I think before I do that, I need to explain one little factor that the Time Lords can do. So I think we'll touch on that next, along with the TARDIS. Okay. So before I move on to the next Doctor, I need to explain one thing that the Time Lords can do. That is regenerate. Now, as you see in this picture of David Tennant, who is the 10th Doctor, you see that there's light glowing around him. Well, that is a part of the regeneration process. Now, what exactly the regeneration process is, it is the process of if any Doctor or Time Lord gets injured severely, they have the ability to, in a way, heal themselves. But you see, the only way they can do that is by completely changing their look. Unless, and David Tennant happened to kind of fix this little flaw, you can actually, if you're a Time Lord, you could actually divert all your regeneration energy into, like, say if you had a cut off hand, you could put it into that, and whenever someone touched that hand would become that Time Lord. So it'd kind of be like if you broke, I don't know, if you broke your foot or something and you're a Time Lord, you could actually, in a way, you could actually heal that, and you could actually change your appearance, or you could save your appearance and allow for another one to kind of, rest. But this is the main thing that is seen throughout Doctor Who because, as I said, each actor in 12 Doctors, that means there's been technically 12 regenerations of the Doctor. So 12 changes of his body or his appearance. Now, he's not exactly the same man at each regeneration, but that's kind of a good thing because honestly, some of the Doctors you can really like and you can really get used to. But the other Doctors are more kind of to the point where you're like, I'm not really liking this Doctor. Well, most of the time after that Doctor regenerates, you like the next one better because their personality and everything inside them is different. Because each regeneration has a different personality. So that's kind of the gist about regeneration. So, yeah, I mean that's basically it for regeneration. Oh, well, I should say this. When you regenerate as a Time Lord, you can be male, and you can possibly be female. It really doesn't matter. And most of the time, though, for the Doctor, he stays male, which is kind of a good thing because he has been for 50 years. So I don't think it'd really be the best to change that. Of course, that's just my thoughts, but he can turn into a woman if it's if it happens. So before I move on to the second Doctor, I'll talk about the TARDIS next. Okay, so as you see here, this is the blue police box known as the TARDIS. Now, as you might have noticed in my kind of title sequence, I had the TARDIS flying through a vortex. Well, that's because the TARDIS, in fact, actually flies through time and space. Yes, it's a time machine. Also, it's bigger on the inside. I'll get to that in just a little bit. But besides it being bigger on the inside, it also has many rooms on the inside, many habitats, anything, you name it, it'll probably have it. Because the TARDIS may look small, but in comparison, it's almost like you have the entire world inside of the TARDIS. That's how big it is inside of this thing. But the TARDIS, they don't actually look like police boxes at first, because the Doctor actually, in 1963, he got stuck, and the chameleon circuit, or the thing that allows the TARDIS to take its shape, got terribly messed up, and well, like just having to get stuck as a police box. So yeah. So here we have one of the interiors of the TARDIS. It was actually probably used most often from the first Doctor to about the 7th Doctor. Throughout time, there was a few modifications to this console room, but beyond that, it mainly stayed the same. As you can see here, the Doctor in this room happens to be the 5th Doctor. But yeah, so as you can see, it's bigger on the inside of the TARDIS by far. So, yeah. Now, the TARDIS can change its interior. It's kind of like the Doctor can change himself. Coincidental, right? I know. So, next we have the interior that is from the 7th and 8th Doctor. It's more the 8th Doctor's because the 8th Doctor uses it more, but you do see a little of the 7th Doctor in this interior. So, this was actually used in the Doctor Who movie, which was actually the only 8th Doctor's screening time. But besides that, this interior is actually one of the nicer ones because it gives you more of an in-depth of how big inside the TARDIS really is and what you can have and all that. Excuse me. So, I will say though, even though this was a cool interior, it didn't last. But that's not entirely a bad thing, because the next one I'm going to show you is rather cool. So this interior is Christopher Eccleston, he's the 9th Doctor, and David Tennant, who was the 10th Doctor, as I showed you a little earlier. And also a little of Matt Smith's, who's the 11th, because he actually crashed the TARDIS before he got his own interior. But I won't quite get there until a few minutes later. But yes, this TARDIS actually, well, interior, housed the 9th Doctor and 10th Doctor for quite a while. And I have to tell you, this interior kind of got at times beat up because either the TARDIS was running into something, or something was going wrong, or the entire room was blowing up, or you name it. The 10th Doctor often used this interior because, well, he liked it, for one, and two, he simply just, I don't know, he had something to it that, kind of called him to say, this is my interior, this is how I like it, and I want to keep it this way. And so he did. Of course, you don't really see how it changed, but nonetheless, it did change. So David Tennant had this interior, and then, as I mentioned before, Matt Smith got it right when he regenerated from David Tennant's 10th Doctor, and he ended up crashing the TARDIS, making the TARDIS have to change the interior because everything was basically in pieces of this interior. So, this was the next Doctor's, or the Matt Smith's, first TARDIS interior. Yes, I say first because I am kind of surprised. Matt Smith has actually been in the TARDIS for 2 interior changes. This is just his first TARDIS interior, which really is actually quite fascinating because you have the occasional monitor, you have the same kind of console piece as you see in the other interiors, but you have a more, I almost want to say retro look, but almost to the point that it's actually cooler than it was in the retro world. So, yes, this interior was, I liked it. Many other Whovians, I think, did too. By the way, Whovians are just people who really like Doctor Who, which I'm probably one of the bigger ones. But, anyways, yeah, so the 11th Doctor spent most of his time in this interior. Until this past Christmas special, the 2012 Christmas special, yep, The Snowman, where he had to change it because of, well, problems with companions and all that. But that will be in another video, not this one, so I'll get to that later. Now, I said he had a second interior, and this was his next interior. Now, as you can see, if you after this video is done, if you want to look at pictures, as I said, the first through about 7th Doctor had the kind of little console piece. If you look at this console piece, you notice it's actually a mixture of the newer 10th, 9th Doctor and 11th Doctor combined with the 1 through 7th Doctor interior. So it's kind of a throwback interior, but at the same time it's kind of a new, innovated, new interior. Because, you see, the Doctor had to change it because of how, well, quite frankly, no one really exactly knows why, but it's just, he wanted to change it, so he did. And rather, it's really nice. It's a nice interior, and you see the Doctor get along with it nicely. Even though it's brand new to him, he gets around perfectly. And it's brand new! So, yeah, it's cool that the TARDIS can make these things, along with the Doctor, who can change these interiors of everything. So, I think it's finally time we moved on to the next Doctor, the 2nd Doctor, Patrick Troughton. Okay, so, after the 1st Doctor, William Hartnell, he had a disease, and he had to fix himself of it, or cure himself of it. So he had to regenerate. So he ended up regenerating into this Doctor, Patrick Troughton, say it right here, who was a I want to be careful when I say wacky doctor, because he wasn't exactly a wacky doctor, but at times he had his moments. And he also, the funny thing about this doctor was he had a very, very close relationship with this recorder that he happened to like to play. But if you actually heard him play it, you'd know that he wasn't actually that good at it. No, he wasn't. But either way, he still liked it. Now this doctor was actually part of a secret military base known as UNIT. UNIT was a high military class facility that basically surveyed the Earth for alien life and tried to protect the Earth from it. Well, the Doctor being a alien and knowing most of the enemy's weaknesses and everything, he was able to join UNIT and he became their scientific officer. Now, he wasn't with them all the time, but most of the time he was with the brigadier that worked Stewart, who was a very big part of this Doctor and the third Doctor as well. So, but this Doctor was a good Doctor, and he had some very good companions, such as Joe Grant and many good companions besides Joe Grant, such as he had Jamie, and he had another one who she wasn't really. I'll say she wasn't really remembered that much, so not really that important. But yeah, that's the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, and next the third Doctor, Jon Pertwee. Okay, so Patrick Troughton, so the second Doctor, was actually forced to regenerate because the Time Lords made him. So he actually ended up regenerating into this Doctor, the third Doctor, Jon Pertwee. Now, Jon Pertwee was more the James Bond Doctor. He had all the gadgets. He had mainly all the things almost James Bond does. So this Doctor, personally, he's one of my favorite Doctors because I don't know why. I like his Doctor, and he was known to be with UNIT a lot of his lifetime, because UNIT was kind of where all the stuff for when he was the Doctor took place. And it was actually UNIT who found him after he regenerated out in some field, unconscious. So the thing about the third Doctor that you might want to know is he was very clever. He was very witty. He was good with weapons. He was good with tools. He was very good at science. He also was very good at negotiating with people. Unless they started getting the bad side of him, then he didn't do so well. I think one example of that would be when he actually met the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, and the three Doctors. And the two Doctors, at first, did not get along because they just didn't. It's kind of funny, but really they didn't get along at first. After a while, they started getting along. Once the first Doctor stepped in and broke their little cat fight up. So, this Doctor had Joe Grant as well, but she actually left this Doctor before his life was even up. So, he also was with Brigadier Third Stewart, and this Doctor actually helped a lot with UNIT. And he really, really did actually help more than any of the other doctors had, because he knew what to do. So that's Jon Pertwee, the third Doctor, and next we have to end because this is the end of the video. So see you in the next video of Doctor Who, the guide to the Doctors and Doctor Who. Doctors, it'll be 4 through 7. So see you in the next video. Bye.